Welcome back, everyone, to another Bleak Rides. Getting the green Larici out for a ride. Thought we'd come back to story time. Previously, I've done a video called Murder, Mystery, and Motorcycles, and I want to follow up on that. Today's going to be a story about murder. Easter in theme. Hopefully good in execution. I haven't rode the Larici in a while, and my mirrors are jacked. Just jacked up. That's better. The Easter Sunday Massacre. It occurred on Sunday, March 30th, 1975, when 41-year-old James U. Ruppert fatally shot 11 members of his own family in his mother's house at 635 Minor Avenue in Hamilton, Ohio. James Ruppert was reported to have had a troubled life. His mother, Charity, had told him that she would have preferred to have had a daughter as her second child. His father, Leonard, also had a violent temper and held little affection for his two sons. Leonard died in 1947 when James and his brother were just ages 12 and 14, respectively. The night before this very grisly massacre, James had went out as usual, like he did every night, to his favorite watering hole, the 19th Hole Cocktail Lounge. He had talked with an employee there, a young woman, 28 years old, Wanda Bishop. She would later state that James told her he was frustrated with his mother's demands on him and his impending eviction from her place. Wanda would later give the statement that James had stated that his mother's complaints would be handled, that he was gonna take care of it. It was a problem he was gonna solve. His mother had made statements like, if you can afford to buy beer 7 nights a week, you can afford to pay rent. James, suffering in the perils of terrible alcoholism. Suffering as so many do. But also psychopathic. James wouldn't leave the bar till 2:30 a.m. Once he was good and loaded, he was able to head home and get some rest. But on Easter Sunday, March 30th of 1975, Ruppert's brother, Leonard, and his wife, Alma, brought their 8 children, ranging in age from 4 to 17, for Easter dinner at the house, located at the 635 Minor Avenue. Ruppert stayed upstairs, sleeping off the night of drinking, while the other family members participated in an Easter egg hunt out on the front lawn. Around 4 p.m., he woke up. He loaded a .357 Magnum, a pair of .22 caliber handguns, and a rifle, and went downstairs to solve his problems. James started this massacre by killing his brother Leonard, followed quickly by the brother Leonard's wife, Alma, and then their mother. From there, James was just getting going. Young David, who was 11, Teresa, who was 9, and Carol, who was 13, were also later killed by him. James turned the family home into a bloody and horrific sight. But it wasn't over. James would also shoot his remaining nieces and nephews, Anne, who was 12, Leonard III, who was 17, Michael, who was 16, Thomas, who was 15, and John, who was just 4. He shot them again and again in the head to ensure they had died. The only sign of a struggle at the crime scene was an overturned waste bin. The Butler County coroner later theorized that James Ruppert had likely shot some victims more than once to prevent anyone escaping. The massacre was over in less than 2 minutes. All that blood, all that death, in just 2 minutes. What must have felt like 3 endless hours in the house, surrounded by dead family. James finally called the police and said, "There's been a shooting." He waited just inside the front door for authorities to arrive. These murders shocked the town of Hamilton. Those who knew James did not think he was capable of violence, especially at the magnitude of this particular massacre. By all accounts, neighbors considered the Rupperts a nice family. James was arrested and charged that day with 11 counts of aggravated homicide. He refused to answer questions asked by police and was very uncooperative. He made it clear he would plead insanity, and he would partially get just that. He was later found guilty on 2 counts of aggravated murder, and not guilty on 9 counts of aggravated murder by reason of insanity. James would be given 2 consecutive life sentences with the possibility of parole in 2025. How about that? 2 years from now. Will Easter ever feel safe again, knowing that in just 2 short years, a man who destroyed his entire bloodline in a single sitting will be free to walk amongst us, maybe participate in an Easter egg hunt, or just get going again. All 11 victims were buried in Arlington Memorial Gardens in Cincinnati, Ohio. A year later, the house was opened to the public, and all of its contents were auctioned off. It was then cleaned, recarpeted, and rented to a family who was new to the area. You know, the county prosecutor, John Holcomb, who had viewed the crime scene, stated, "There was so much blood on the first floor, it was dripping through the floorboards and into the basement." Ruppert had fired a total of 35 rounds, and all 4 of the weapons. Just rented it to a new family. It's an Easter grand. If you want to know more about the Easter massacre, I'll link it in the description box down below. I got this article off of Wikipedia, and I've done my best to do it some semblance of justice in its retelling. For a little bit of mystery or background on the origins of Easter, perhaps the most important time in the Christian calendar, Easter is known by much of the world as a holiday that celebrates Jesus Christ's resurrection. If you dig a little deeper though, and it seems that the original celebration from this time of year goes back even further than modern religion. The date of Easter falls at a key point in the solar calendar, the spring equinox, when there are finally equal periods of light and darkness in the north, and the arrival of springtime is a joyous celebration. It is probably an original spring celebration, beginning an ancient spiritual festival honoring the cycles of the earth and the moon as well, as the emergence of the year's first crops and flowers from the depths of winter abound. I have been your host, Bleak. This is Bleak Rides. I want to thank everyone for coming along on the ride. A little story about an Easter massacre, a little bit of history about the celebration of Easter, and a little bit of a motorcycle ride. Forever two wheels. Y'all be safe out there. Have a wonderful Easter weekend. And try to be a little bit more patient with family.